Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Sane-ish podcast for people healing with trauma, from trauma, addiction, abuse, mental health struggles, grief, narcissists, and every other flavor of chaos life can throw at you, and somehow still functioning mostly. I'm your host, Holly Broughton, survivor, truth teller, boundary setter, and proud member of the Still Healing, Still Hilarious Club. Around here, we don't do shame, embarrassment, and we don't do perfection. Just real talk, dark humor, hard truths, and a whole lot of hope. Because sanity is overrated and healing, that shit is messy. And this is Sane-ish, so let's get into it. So today we have got my guest is a woman that I've known for a couple of years now since I've moved to Austin. And I'm very grateful for her because she's helped me like in a huge way. And she is actually has been my personal RSPS. RSPS is a recovery peer support specialist. And now that I am an RSPS myself, she has been a very big part in helping me with my journey in so many ways since I've moved to Austin. And I'm just very grateful for her with helping me with resources around Austin, because I didn't know anything around here. So she's been helpful in, pointing out certain things, giving me guidance as to organizations to go to, and and as I have come into my RSPS role, we've kind of like, I've given her information and we've kind of gone back and forth now. So it's kind of been fun. So anyway, I've asked her if she would be a guest on Sane-ish, and she said yes, and I'm very grateful. So Tiffany, welcome.
Hello, nice to be here.
We're glad you're here. So tell us, start off by telling us, like like what where did you come from?
Okay, yeah. So I was born here in Austin, born and raised, and from very young age, I was always very shy, and I specifically remember the moment when I became very nervous talking in front of people. I was in first grade, and I remember we were about to be let out for school, and there was like this little pumpkin, and I put my finger in like the top of the pumpkin, right? And like I couldn't get my finger out, and so I just like shook my finger, and it fell, and it was made out of ceramic, and so it made a huge noise, and then everyone looked at me, and I was just like, oh my gosh, am I gonna get in trouble? I remember like I was about to start crying, and the teacher just, she was just kind of like, all right, everybody, let's go. And from that moment, I became very shy even to this day. And it's something that I, try to work on all the time. But I specifically remember that moment being like a defining moment at a very young age. And so since then I was very shy, just always was very quiet, just did what I needed to do. I followed directions, and, I was just trying not to be any kind of problem, right?
Mhm.
But then, as life goes on, my parents split up. So that alone was trauma. There's been sexual abuse, more trauma, and, it was like 12 the first time that I tried smoking a joint.
Mhm.
And, from then on, it was a couple more years before I was smoking pot more regularly. really just using it as a way to cope, because I just remember, my teenage years just being very um like even though I had good friends around me, just me and I just always felt lonely and I don't know, maybe like misunderstood in some way.
Mhm.
And so, as I got older, obviously trying into more drugs. Um, but at the same time, it was weird because like, also another thing, I grew up in a very strict household. So I couldn't just everybody was like, going to sleepovers and I wasn't allowed to. So it wasn't really until I was 16 that I, had a job, had a car, like got a car, got a phone. That was like very, it was still at a point where there still wasn't smartphones, you still had just like flip phones. But I remember
Mhm.
the whole reason why I even got a phone was because I had a flat one day and I had to like walk to the gas station. And mom was like, why don't you just get yourself a phone now since, so that you're not having, and that's back when there was still pay phones and stuff.
Yeah.
So then, then I had one. And so yeah, that kind of was like a really crazy way of like me getting freedom because I would go to school, go to work right after school, and then I had some free time, and then I could go home. So
Mhm.
it was like kind of like I was like finally being able to be trusted to be out
Mhm.
in the world. And so of course I just from a very young age too, I grew up in an immigrant household, so I had to be there was a lot of responsibility on my shoulders on like translating. And I just remember being very young and being at a restaurant, and if my grandparents or my mom didn't like something, I remember being very embarrassed because I was the one that was having to be like, can you fix this or can you do this? And
Yeah.
so I felt, I don't know, I just felt a lot older than what I was. Just
Did you
taking on
feel
these
like
responsibilities.
did you feel like you had a lot of weight on your shoulders because you had
Yeah, like a
okay.
lot of responsibility to like,
Yeah.
even read documents or even read letters. And me, I'm young. I'm like, this is all between like six to like,
Yeah.
teenage years. And so I'm trying to also, play this part of like supporting and helping my family.
Yeah.
Um, but these are things that just come with being in a first generation, like me being first generation born here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a bit, it was a lot. And I remember, like being very just like so annoyed with it. And now I'm like, it's crazy because now when I think back, I'm like, man, like I really should have just embraced it a bit more. But I didn't know at that time, I was just kind of like, oh,
Sure.
why can't they just know this? Why can't they, like, of course,
Yeah.
like a kid.
Yeah. You were a kid.
Um, yeah, of course.
Did you have any brothers or sisters
I
or
did.
okay.
I do have sisters, but I was primarily the one that went out the most with like my grandparents and my mom and stuff like that. So yeah, it was always kind of like on me when it came to translation and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was like just a lot of things that I had responsibilities about, very young. And so as I grew up, I remember, I was trying to hurry up fast in school. I was just trying to get out. I was just trying to get out of the house. I was just trying to live on my own, very much wanting to grow up. And looking back on it, I'm like, why didn't I just enjoy my teenage years? Like, why didn't I just, act my age? Because I moved out at 17. I hadn't even graduated yet. Then I graduated. And then, then it became having these different jobs and gaining experience. And next thing you know, I'm at 20 years old having a kid. And so, of course, more responsibility, right? Like, way more. So that was interesting because, of course, I wasn't, mature, definitely not, mature enough for any of
Mm.
this, but I had to mature. I mean, it's like I was, but I wasn't, right?
Yeah.
Um, and, so I had a kid, and, even then, that was still around the time that I had been smoking pot. Like, I hadn't gone into any harder drugs. It was very much still very toned down. Um, And so I had a kid and, a couple more years, or it was only like 2 years that went by. And, I got with my now husband. And so we started a business. So, of course, more responsibility. Like I'm just adding on all these different things, like, you know, because
Just
it was
keep
a
adding
lot.
them on.
Yeah, I just keep adding things on. And because it was like, I was gonna have to worry about two rents, right? Like the rent for the building and the my rent. So
Yeah.
it was constant in survival mode. Like I would say that that period of my life, it was 5 years of just being in constant survival mode of like, okay, every day it was like, we need to make money, we need to make money. And
Yeah.
really, money really just became just such a big problem in the relationship because that's, they always say, right, like don't have businesses with your significant others because, and I totally get why people say that because you do end up fighting about money. And
Mm,
it always comes down to like, okay, how much do we have? Okay. It just becomes that's all it becomes.
yeah.
And during that the industry that I was in, this business was the tattooing world. And
Mm,
so the way that this world operates is very much it's a night industry.
right.
And so during that time, it was like a couple years, and I remember that's when I finally was introduced to amphetamines and methamphetamines and all that stuff. And so, of course, me, who's already somebody that wants to be like an overachiever about everything, I was like, what? This is giving me energy. Oh my gosh, this is like such a great thing. Like, but of course, my experience with the way that I viewed, addiction and drug addicts was very much of what I saw in the media, right? So it would be like, oh, okay, the people that are drug addicts are the people that are out on the street asking you for money or stealing to pawn things, to get money, to buy drugs. So in my head, I was like, okay, I have a business, I have a job besides this business as well. Like, no, I'm not an addict. Like it never crossed my mind like that I was because I just figured like, okay, and of course, now I know it's, you're just functioning. You're just a functioning addict. Like that's what that is.
Hmm.
So, that whole time I was just not really, and I wasn't even too deep into it either. It was very much like every now and then kind of thing. And but still like my life went downhill with all that stuff. Like, losing the rental home that I was staying at. Now I was having to stay at the business that I was, luckily there was a bunch of rooms there, but still it was very embarrassing that that's, where I was ending up with all of
Yeah.
this. Um and then, a couple more years went by, and then we just completely got out of it because it was just not, it wasn't going to, or it was going to just keep being this like rat race of like always trying to make money and always kind of selling yourself in a way
Mm,
to make money, right? And so we got out of that, and then because this was all in San Marcos, and so um, I it took me a long time for me to actually be able to drive through there and not like have like my blood pressure rise because I just remembered all of like the negative memories
mhm.
of my addiction and stuff up there. So I came back to live in Austin and I had a couple different jobs and I had gone to go work at these gardens that I had worked there kind of off and on throughout the years. I had been good friends with the owner since I was a teenager. It was like a place that I would seek solace in. Like, I loved being around the garden. I loved they had this little store that had, all these like herbal teas and tinctures and powders and just, it was like I was like a kid in a candy store there all the time, all the time. I loved it. And so, during that time, I was still so when I had came back and started working there, I was now working the garden. And so I was the only girl working the garden. It was just a bunch of dudes. So of course, me trying to be like, okay, I'm as strong as them, like I can do everything they can do. And so, of course, I was still using drugs because I was like, okay, I need energy, I need strength. okay. And still I didn't see it as a problem because again, I was like, I'm not having to ask anyone for money for drugs. So therefore I'm not an addict. It was like all these things that you tell yourself
Yeah.
to
Yep.
like rationalize and normalize what you're doing. And it's not until later that you're just like, wow, how ridiculous was I to even think any of that? Um, but anyway, so I ended up getting pregnant. And at this point, I really wasn't sure what I was gonna do. Like just in general, like what was I gonna do? And so I was pretty late into the pregnancy until I went to go seek prenatal care, which is already a red flag. Like I didn't know this, but sure enough, when I went, I was already like 6 months, and because of course I was using, so
Right.
I didn't want, you know, I didn't I didn't want them to know, right? And so I went and I remember that she asked me if she could do a blood panel. And so I was like, okay, because that's pretty normal, right? They got to check all your
Mhm.
levels and stuff. What she didn't tell me was that she was doing a blood panel, like it was gonna test for drugs. And so when I went back, I remember she told me like, "Hey, we're seeing this in your blood, and this is going to prompt CPS. So you may want to go ahead and stop now because you will be getting a visit when you're at the hospital." So then I was like a nervous wreck for the couple, like it was like 2 more months before I was due. And so then I was just a nervous wreck and I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I going to do? Like, how is this going to go down? And so I had my baby, and sure enough, so that was a whole nightmare too, because um, they did not count my son's fingers on his hand. He had an extra thumb that they did not tell me about. They had no clue. It wasn't until because they wrap them up, most of the time that they're in the hospital, right? They
Mhm.
like a little cocoon. So you're just holding them, right? And
Yeah.
so, then I leave. Oh, so they tested me, of course. They tested, both me and the baby for drugs. And they were negative, right? So I was like, okay, maybe this will get me off the hook, whatever. Like I'll be fine. I won't, if they do come, they'll just see these results and it'll be fine. Anyway, so I get home and we're taking off the blanket from the baby, and my husband says, "Did you know he has an extra thumb?" And I was like, "What?" I was like so freaked out. I was like, "What? What do you mean?" And he's like, "Yeah, he has an extra thumb." And so of course now I'm calling the hospital, now I'm calling my clinic. They don't even know what to say to me. They're like, "Can you come in today, right away?" Because they're now trying to do damage control because
Mhm.
now they look ridiculous because the protocol is when they do find things like that, they're supposed to take an x-ray to see if there's any connecting, like if there is like a bone in there or if it has tendons and stuff like that. So while we were there, of course, they're trying to do damage control, trying to say they're sorry for not catching this and all this stuff. And so I was given the test results for the meconium, which is the baby's poop, the first poop that comes out.
Right.
So that what tested positive. So I was like, oh my gosh, like so it was like a huge amount of stress that I was undergoing at this time because it was like I was finding out he had an extra thumb. Now I'm finding out this is a positive test. And then a day later, here comes CPS knocking on my door. And of course, right away, they are like, okay, we need to do a safety. I mean, it just completely just went downhill. They were basically like, if you don't enter this drug court program, we're going to take away your kids. We're going to get a court order, all this stuff. And of course, me, I'm like, no, 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 I'll do whatever it takes so that
Yeah.
doesn't happen. And so this was January of 2020, and there wasn't any so I entered the program, but there wasn't any beds yet available. So it wasn't until like mid-February. My husband also entered the program as well. And so mid-February they finally found a bed at a treatment center in Houston. And up until this point, I didn't even know that there was treatment centers that women could take their kids to. I had no idea. Like, of course, again, I didn't know anything about this world, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I was going to ask
and
Who did you leave your? I was going to ask you, who did you leave
No,
with?
they went along with me. Well, two of them did.
Oh wow,
Yeah, two
that's
of them did.
awesome.
I mean, it was it the reason that so very soon after COVID happened, like it was like I was there for a week, and then the next week it was like COVID happened, and so then it became, nobody could come in and out. Any kind of programming that they had, like those people couldn't come in because remember, this is back when they still thought like, people were just dropping dead on the street, like they really
Yeah,
didn't know very much yet.
yeah.
Um, so it was very difficult because, I was having to have both of my children with me. One of them, she was 3, and then the baby, I mean, he was just a newborn. And back then, my daughter, she was having hearing issues.
Mhm.
So, the only really way to express herself was like being highly upset, wasn't really talking. So here I am in this, first of all, I don't like Houston. So I'm already like in a place where I already do not like being at. And and also I couldn't relate to the ladies that were with me. Like I just couldn't, because I remember they would tell me like their stories of, their CPS cases, and I'd just be like, what? These people have like crazy stories, like mine's not even this crazy, like what is happening here, like I can't, like how am I here, like of course just being very much like this is not me, like what. um
Couldn't find the similarities.
yeah, yeah, like at all. I'm like, what is this? And it was very, to me, I felt very humiliated at that moment, just being there. I still was not accepting what the reality was. And it wasn't until like 45 days in that I was like, okay, yes, I do have an addiction problem. Yes, this is a good thing. Like it wasn't until that point that I was finally like realizing that, yes, like I did need to be there. I did need help.
Yeah,
As it was a hard pill to swallow to even admit any of this. And but yeah, I felt very lonely because again, the only way that you could really even talk to anybody, they had these like really old payphones there, and you needed to have a call, like a phone card. And so, I mean, it was just, I felt like I was back in like early 2000s. I mean, I was just like, what is going on here? And even then, they would only let you use it for like 3 minutes. I mean, it was like really ridiculous, just the way it all was working out. And so finally, the day came and it was 90 days. And then my family came to pick me up. And so with this program, you're supposed to do 90 days at a sober home. But because COVID was happening, like people weren't allowing, new people to get into these sober homes. And so they allowed me to stay at my in-laws for about a month. I had to ask special permission because you're supposed to stay in Travis County, you're supposed to stay in the Austin vicinity. But where I
mhm,
was staying at it wasn't very far away. It was in Smithville, but still it was Bastrop County. So I had to ask for
mhm.
permission, and I had told them that I would quickly be finding an apartment, and so they said okay. So I came back, and 2 days later, I was back at work, back at the gardens. And so I worked there for a while, and it wasn't working out because my friend, the one that was the owner, he wasn't happy that I was associated with the court system. Like he just
Uh,
thought that I had, been scared into submission kind of thing, and was having to, which he was right, like I was scared, and, there was a lot of fear. Like my reasoning for joining it was based off of fear.
mhm,
And when you operate out of fear, I mean, it's not good, right?
mhm.
So it wasn't working out. And so, I stopped working there after a couple months, and then just kind of, I had to do IOP, I had to do meetings weekly, I had to have a sponsor, I had to do UAs. I mean, it was very much it was hard. It was always keeping me accountable. So that part was great, right? Because what I ended up realizing from this conversation that I had had with the LCDC, which is drug counselor,
Mhm.
in at the treatment center I had been at. I remember her telling me, like, she said, everyone here is going to relapse, but you are not, because you're going to have a good support system. And I really did not know. I was just like, wow, she's really saying everybody here is gonna like just relapse. I was like, no way, like what? And so I was like, okay, I guess. And sure enough, I end up finding out that all of these people that I had been in treatment with all relapsed. And it's because they didn't have support systems, right? Like I also do remember that a lot of them were getting their CPS cases closed while we were still in treatment. And so to me, that was like mind-boggling, because I'm like, what? I'm having to deal with this drug court in Travis County, and these people over here are just getting their cases closed left and right,
Mhm.
And but now, now I see it for what it is. She was right. Like I was held accountable, which kept me sober that whole time. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, that was just a interesting little tidbit that I didn't realize how common it is, right, for people to relapse.
Mhm.
Um, so,
Kind of a
during,
God thing, you
huh?
know. I said kind of a little God thing,
Yeah,
really. I
yeah,
mean, you know.
yeah, definitely.
And so
Uh,
your husband was actually kind of doing the same
yeah.
thing.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So he had the treatment center that he went to was here in Austin. And so it was like very much like a all men's. They had a lot of veterans there. He's a veteran, so he could definitely relate with a lot of these people just because
Oh,
of, past experiences and stuff. Um, so yeah, he went there, and he also see, they didn't it's interesting because they didn't have him do everything that they had me doing. Like, I had to go to IOP. He didn't have to go to IOP. He did have to get a sponsor, and he did have to do UAs, but like, this program was focused a lot more on like the mom, right? Because it's the mom that had the baby, and it's the mom that had the addiction and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, like that was also very helpful to our relationship, because we're finally in a spot where we're both sober, and that had not always been the case throughout our whole relationship. So it was a lot of like, and also too, I was getting used to the fact that we were no longer working in this night industry thing, where we would kind of work opposite schedules. Sometimes I would stay late, but it was the majority of time him staying late. So it was having me to get used to like him being at home at night, and like just it was kind of just a complete reset to the relationship, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we were in the program for about 18, almost 20 months. Like, yeah, I mean, I was almost in that program for 2 years. But during that, I remember the current place that I work at, which is a recovery center. They gave like a speakers, I don't know what they call it. It's like a speakers meeting kind of thing, or a speaker docket. And so they talked about, being an RSPS, being a recovery coach and all that stuff. And I remember at that time, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Like, I didn't know how I was going to move on from that. And the drug court offered to pay for the training. And so I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, I'll take them up on it. My husband took them up on it too. He actually took them up on it a couple months before I did. So he did the RSPS training and then applied at the recovery center, and he got the job. And then a couple months later, I also did the training and then applied and then got the job. So I was still in drug court when I started the job. But soon after, I graduated from the drug court program. And so during this time, where this recovery center is, it's in state grounds, and so during that time they had everything locked down. So it wasn't until like a year after I started working there that the center started finally being allowed to be used for the public. um so since then I so when I graduated from the Drucker program, I remember them coming to my house to do like an exit interview and stuff. And I remember they gave me Narcan. And I just remember thinking like they didn't explain to me like what it was. Like they just gave it to me, right? And I remember
Mhm.
thinking like, first of all, I didn't know about Narcan until I was in treatment when I heard someone say that they had overdosed and they were given Narcan. And I remember thinking like, because I always in my head, anytime I ever heard the word overdose, I always thought it meant someone overdosed and they died. Like that's what I thought it meant. I did not know that people can overdose and there's Narcan, right, to you know bring them back, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had no clue about any of that. And so I thought it was really weird that they had given me Narcan without any explanation. I'm like, what? Like what? And so I'm like, okay, I guess maybe they're doing this because I'm not addicted to opiates, so they don't really have to explain it to me or something. I don't know. I was just like, this is really weird. They just didn't tell me anything. But, it took me being in this job to like learn about harm reduction, learn about Narcan. Like these were all concepts that they had not talked to me about that whole time I was in it because, right, they don't want you to know about harm reduction because they're pretty much based on the whole basis of it is that you need to be sober, right?
Hmm.
And harm reduction is not that. So of course they weren't gonna like talk to me about it or teach me about it or anything. They're educate me about it.
Right.
So yeah, then I realized that there was this whole, other side of recovery that I didn't know about. Like I didn't know that there was medicated assisted treatment. Like I didn't know any of that. So it's been a lot, like it's been a journey of just like gaining so much knowledge just all the time. And then, especially, in the last year, for me, it's been a lot more knowledge of like more of like, harm reduction practices that people do. Because that's the thing, right? Is like with peer support, um, you're not there to tell people how their recovery needs to be. You're not there to tell them you need to be sober or you need to do this. Like that is up to them,
Yeah.
which is sometimes people have a problem with that, sometimes people think that everybody should be sober and think that that's how, everybody should be, right? But you cannot let like your biases like get in the way of like the way that ethically you're supposed to be with your peers,
Yeah.
which is very much, you're just like, the best way that I can explain is just like that you're there to support them on their recovery. You're there to be alongside them, but you're not there to tell them what they need to do, you know. Sure, you can talk about your experience and, things that you've learned and things that haven't worked for yourself, but ultimately it's up to the peer to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
now I'm still doing peer support and it's really been helpful just to keep me accountable as well.
Yeah. So what have you, as a peer support specialist, what have you found has been your biggest challenge as a peer support specialist?
Um, I don't know. Sometimes I think it's carrying too much, like carrying a lot, like, because you just, you're in this position of like you really get to know people.
Yeah.
And so you just I mean you can't help but care, right? You can't help
Right.
but want
Yeah.
people to be happy and want people to do good and want people to be able to achieve the dreams that they want.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is like hearing too much or feeling like oh no, like just being worried, really, right? Being worried about people when
Yeah.
they're not doing good, worrying about, them getting in trouble, and then also knowing that like ethically speaking, once I leave this job, I won't ever be able to talk to a lot of these people ever again.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and so that is actually like really hard for me because I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I've known some of these people for years. Like, what do you mean I'm never gonna be able to talk? So I'm already like thinking ahead, right? Like my mind's already like, oh my gosh, it's gonna suck when I like have to get out of this. But for the time being, I'm like, okay, let me just stay in the present moment and do as much as I can while I'm
Yeah.
in this.
Yeah. And then do you ever have moments where, because I know, you have to make plans with, plans and goals with, your peers, and
Yeah.
do you ever, like, because I know some of them don't follow through, and you're just like going, come on,
Yeah.
come on. Like, and the reason I say that is because, I mean, I see with people a lot of potential, and you see it, and but they don't see it within themselves, and it's like, come on, come on. And it's like, it's so hard not to, because it's their choice. I mean, it's just like sobriety. You can't
Mhm.
you can't give it to them. It's their choice. But it's so hard.
Yeah.
Not there's nothing you can do. But
Yeah.
it's like you just like,
Yeah, I mean, it can be
hey,
so frustrating. I mean, yes,
I
it can be so
know.
frustrating because you do. And, I have seen just amazing transformations of
Yeah.
people going from like the street to getting jobs to then doing school, and then I've been invited to some graduation. I mean, it's been incredible to see. And like that's the part, right? That's the part that I love the most, is like seeing transformations like this, like seeing
Yeah,
the potential of people when they do believe in themselves, right?
for sure.
And but it is hard, right? Because then it kind of goes back to the fact that, like, you know, not everybody has resources to get therapy, because that's something that is so lacking just in this world in general, right? Like in this country, of just being able to get therapy. I feel like if a lot more people were able to handle their trauma,
Mhm.
we'd be a lot better off.
Yeah.
And like, unfortunately, right now we're living in a society where you have to have money, or you have to be part of special programs in order to get, and it's not just accessible for people to receive therapy and and for people to be trauma informed.
Yeah.
Um, so it is hard for me, like that it's more of like the system that upsets me, of just the way that, addicts are looked at as like, we can't do anything, we can't achieve anything, or or depending on how much money you make,
Hmm.
if you make a lot of money and you do drugs, ooh, you're cool, and that's cool, right? But
Hmm.
if you're somebody that is middle class or lower, whatever, it's looked at as trashy, like, ooh, they're drug addicts, or, oh, I mean, it's really crazy the way that society views, just in the way that people use drugs, right? Like, which socioeconomic status you're in depends on whether people think it's trashy or they think it's cool that you have money to buy all these things.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So
So what,
that's really hard.
yeah. So what do you think? Because you've been a peer support specialist longer than I have, but what do you think is the what do you think is lacking, when you are working with peers? Therapy?
Yes, that's a big one. That, and resources for people, for them to just live somewhere. I mean, it
Housing?
is,
So
yes,
housing?
housing. Yes, housing is a big deal because, that's one of, especially for people that have, been on the streets for a long time. I mean, I don't know how they expect people to be able to stay sober when you're trying to survive on the streets. I mean, it's very difficult for people. And so, getting people into housing is one of the most difficult things because, there's not as much money, or resources that are helping them get into
Mhm.
housing. A lot of the
Mhm.
housing too, yeah, sure, it may be called affordable housing or whatever, but there's still you're still needing to have pay stubs to show, right? And for somebody that's just coming out of treatment, that's
Mhm.
hard. Like that's hard to, okay, where are you going to live? Where are you
Yeah,
going to live until, and even treatment in and of itself, like even being in treatment, I feel like is a privilege.
sure.
Sometimes when I hear people be like, "Oh, I've been to 10, 10 or however many treatments," I'm like, that's a privilege because not everybody can do that.
Yeah,
Like for me, it was I went to one that was like that gets money from the state. So that
yeah,
already is not the best, it's not the best treat. Like you're not gonna, and it's also right, you're gonna get different levels of treatment depending on where you go receive treatment.
right.
So there's a lot, I mean, there's a lot of issues that come up. So it's even just getting people into treatment. Sometimes people, because when people are ready to go, like that is the best time to get into treatment, right?
Right.
Like when they get that I don't know, like when the rot, like like when it's like when it strikes, like that's when you need to go. And sometimes it's, of course, people don't have insurance, people, cannot just, and then even the state, when they do try to help you, it's only for 28, 30 days. And
Mhm.
even then, like, that's not enough. Like, it's not.
Yeah,
Like, if I know myself that even during those 30 days, because I've seen this cycle of people going to treatment for 30 days, they get out, they fall right back into it, they go back. So it's a constant, like, it just constantly becomes a revolving door of,
yeah,
and just because they won't give you a lot of time, right? They only give, it's totally not enough because really, right, supposedly the research says that the longer you are in treatment, the better off that you will be once you come out of it, right?
yeah,
And so yeah, like it's treatment, it's housing, even job opportunities for people,
yeah,
especially if you have a record. Then we start going into like when you have a record and how hard it is to get certain jobs.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
eh,
people can lose their jobs prior to
yes.
going into treatment anyway. So, I mean, there's that too.
Yeah.
So they lose their jobs because of their addictions and alcoholism. So
Yeah.
by the time they get out of treatment, they don't have
Yeah.
they don't have a job, or uh, if they're lucky, they may still have their home.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing too, right? Is like, how do you account for going, if you have a home, how do you account for going to treatment for 90 days? Who's going to take care of your home? How are you paying those bills? I mean, just so much that goes into it. The only reason that it worked out for me was because my lease was up in that February 2020. And, then I went to treatment. So I didn't have anything to fall back on, really, right? But really, that was the only way. So yeah, it's very unrealistic to just expect people to drop everything and just be able to go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: what are your thoughts on self care?
Oh man, that's such a it's so hard, So the reason I find it really, really difficult, I mean, I'm getting better at it.
You
So,
know why I'm asking you
huh?
this. I said, you know why I'm
Yeah,
asking.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely know. No, I definitely know. Because I'm terrible at it. Like I'm terrible. Because you go so many years without like taking care of yourself, like truly taking care of yourself, that when now you don't have like the drugs, then it's like, okay, well, what does that even mean? Like self-care, like because everybody's definition of it is different, right? Like some people like view like going to get a coffee is like their self-care. For me, it's always like, okay, what is gonna help me in the long run, right? Like what is, of course, me always like looking at, how is this gonna help me, right? So I
Mm,
view things like, okay, once a month I go get lymphatic care. I get like it's like body massage and lymphatic care. And so I call that my
So,
self-care because again, it's I'm helping my body release any kind of stress, any kind of areas that are stuck. I'm helping my lymphatic system. And so I think of that as like self-care.
mhm.
But really like listening to my body is a very difficult thing for me. Like because in my mind, I'm so used to I need to be busy. I need to be busy at all times and relaxing just means I'm being lazy. Like it's been like ingrained in me since I was a little kid, I couldn't even say I'm bored because if I said that automatically, oh, go clean this, go clean that. No, you're not going to be bored. Like I mean, it was so, I remember for even now as an adult, anytime anytime my mom would call and I'd be like, hey, just hanging out on the couch. She'd be like, oh, what are you doing? Just sitting here. Oh, and automatically in my head I'm like, oh, great, great. Now I'm being looked at as like lazy. I'm not doing anything. I should be getting up and washing. It just so it is very hard for me to, you know, anytime I get sick, I automatically I'm like, oh my gosh, there's all these things I'm not going to be able to do. Like, and of
Yeah,
course, like trying to push myself to do these things, which only ends up backfiring. I mean, it only backfires. Um, and I've really had to, I recently got into a car accident a couple months ago, and I got a concussion, right? And automatically, the first thing they tell you is like, okay, you need to take it easy. You need to stay off of a big thing is like staying off of like devices and computers and stuff like that because the refresh rate, like your eye is not seeing it, but it's constantly refreshing. And so they say that the doctor told me it takes longer for people to heal if they're just sitting in front of the computer. And so that's also so of course I had to get so the days that this so the day it happened, I had a um show that I was supposed to be at. I was going to perform with this ensemble, right? So I
mhm.
was already like as soon as it happened, I was like on my way to go to it. So I was like so upset. Like meanwhile, my head is like so swollen because I hit my head. And so
Mhm.
I'm like so upset that I couldn't like that was my mind. My mind was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to miss this show that I'm going to perform at." Like just so ridiculous. Like instead of me being like, oh my gosh, I'm grateful that I'm okay. I'm grateful that, like, no, my first thought was like, "Ah, I can't believe I'm missing this. Like being so upset, so upset. And, the next day, finally, I was like, okay, I do need to go get seen, whatever. Cause, I had very visible marks in my face. And went to go get seen, got a CT scan, and they're like, no, you're okay. You just had a concussion and a contusion. And so you really need to take it easy. So the very next day, I had the show that I was going to go to in person that I'd been waiting on for like months to go. So I asked the doctor, I'm like, would it be okay if I went? And they were like, oh, well, we don't recommend. It's not going to be the end of the world, but, be mindful of how you feel when you're there. Like you may, the music may get too loud for you. Just be mindful. And if you feel like you need to go, then go. So I was like, okay, whatever. So of course I went. And, luckily the first band, like the band that I was going to see was the very first band that was going to be that day. So I was like, okay, yes. And then I remember like after that, I started feeling really weird, like just I don't know, it was just like getting too loud. Like I was already like telling my friends, like, I think I'm gonna have to go. Like I'm not feeling well. Like I'm starting to feel really weird. Luckily, one of my friends showed up and she had her car there. So we were having to like anytime I felt weird, we would go take breaks. We would go chill in the car and then we would come back. And so we
Mhm.
did, but again, of course, me not listening again to doctors, me not honoring my body.
Yeah.
And, the next couple of days were really difficult. Like just my memory. I mean, there's been lingering effects of me not taking it easy. of
Yeah.
me just being in front of computers and just like going on like nothing. A lot
Yeah.
of like memory issues, cognition, just basic remembering things. Like, I mean, even now I'm still having some issues with like, I leave something somewhere and then I can't even retrace my steps like at all. Like it's just completely blank. So it causes a lot of frustration because I put a lot of, like I always think of it like, oh, I always think of my brain like, oh my gosh, I need to constantly be better and do good and be on top of everything, like know everything that's happening. And so it's been so frustrating for me. Like I've really had to slow down.
Yeah.
And a couple weeks after the accident, I had a week-long trip to New Mexico and California. And so that was actually the first time that I had not been in front of a computer for a week or just like for more than a couple days. So that was like a very good period of time that I like finally like rested. I had fun while I was out. And then I came back and so I felt a little bit better, but still, it's been a journey trying to heal from that.
Yeah.
Because it's not like it's so hard when it's not something that's physically that you need to heal. It's when it's your brain, you're just like, why aren't you working like you usually work?
Yeah. 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 Well, I've had to, the older you get, you have to, especially if you've been active all your life. Like I used to be active when I was younger. I was an athlete, and you know, then I started having injury after injury, and then it was like I didn't like it. And then and then of course I got diagnosed with a couple of things, and then I didn't like that either. But it's like I and that's when I had to start listening to my body. Um, and that was tough. Um, so it's kind of like a transition period where you know God or whoever you choose, creator, whatever, start saying, "Hey, you need to start slowing down." Because I used to go 1,000 miles an hour, like all the time,
Mm.
and he was like, ain't gonna happen anymore. So, but now I have a balance. Now I'm balanced where what I know what my balance is. And every once in a while I'll go over it. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough if you don't know what that is. And if you don't, you know, it gets hard, because I can tell you when I used to be pretty active, I didn't like slowing down at all. At all. It
Yeah.
was hard.
Yeah, especially when you're just an overachiever, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
perfectionist, and you
Yep.
just like want to do as best as you can,
Right.
forget what your body's literally crumbling, and you're still like,
Yep.
I can do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was doing. I kept pushing myself, and injury after injury, just kept going and going and going. And yeah, that wasn't working.
Mm. Yeah, totally, totally.
It's like, Holly, it ain't working. You're just making it worse. So
Yeah, yeah, no, and exactly, right? It's like not listening to your body. Your body's like, okay, you need to chill, and you're just like, but also too, like it's like that when you're kind of disconnected, right? Like your body,
yeah.
your mind. I've been, just recently, actually, I've discovered the benefits of breath work.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I cannot even, I mean, just in the last year, I've really taken, so I kind of feel like the first couple of years of me being in peer support is just me kind of like doing the work, just, doing the work, head down, like just
Yeah.
working, right? Just working. And it wasn't until, a year ago that I finally started doing more things for my sobriety, right? For my recovery. And, it's included like finding other recovery paths. Like right now, I'm following the Red Road to Wellbriety, and Wellbriety is um, the Native American teachings on recovery, and so it's a lot about being in harmony with people around you, and really a lot of reflection, a lot of like slowing down, a lot of it because that's a big thing is like indigenous cultures like they take their time like
Right.
they have a very slow paced for them like over
Mhm.
here like to them it's like mind boggling for like because we're all used to like on being on the go and like let me just eat something real quick, let's go. Like no, these people like take their time to do things and like
Mhm.
enjoy life and stuff, right? And being in the present moment, like that is like a big thing. um
Yeah.
and for me, I've always felt like I was living in the past or I was living in the future.
Mhm.
Like living in the past when it comes to like thinking about all the things that I've done, all the, mistakes that I've made, and then also looking into the future like, okay, well if I just want to achieve this and I just want to do this and I just want to do that, just not living in the present. And so it's really been very different for me now to be doing this and doing more things for myself like outside of because sometimes you're in this recovery stuff and like that's all you talk about all day long and you're
Yeah.
just like, oh my God, like you then you go into these areas where people are not in recovery and you're just like, okay, like nobody's talking about recovery and like it's normal and nobody's asking me like how long I have been sober. Like I mean it's really crazy. Like um, and it's nice because or nobody's asking me like what do I do for a living or things just simple things
Yeah.
like that or
Yeah.
or I'm not having to like retell my story or just whatever like
Yeah.
it's after a certain point you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm just like surrounded by recovery, right?
Right.
So me taking these steps to like like I joined a couple music ensembles, and that has actually taught me a lot about being in the present moment, right? Because for me like when I'm trying to figure out this rhythm for the drum, I do not have time to think about what's going to happen tomorrow. Like I
Yeah.
need to literally be in the moment and actually listen to what other people are playing. I need to follow certain cues when it's, the percussion start. So that has actually taught me a lot about being in the present moment and
Yeah.
like not thinking about like, oh my God, I forgot to turn this off. Like just being in the
Right.
moment. And so I remember I used to think like when I would hear people say like, oh yeah, music really helps my recovery. Like I remember just being like, that sounds cheesy. Like what? Like how does that work? Like what do you mean? Like you're just listening to music? Like I never understood. I never understood it until now. Until now I'm like, oh, now I know why people say that. Like, ah, yes. But like these judgments that you make in your head because you're just like, what? How is that possible?
Yeah.
But no, no, it is. And so it's been that, it's been, Wellbriety, it's been breath work recently. So, again, this is, because I always hear people like, oh, I talk about breath work. And I'm like, what is that? Like, what? Like, what? You're just breathing? Like, how is that supposed to help you? No, I've discovered that it helps so much, like,
Yeah.
so much. Really, just like, for me, it helps me when I've had weeks where I'm like, where I have really high, where I have a lot of like events going on with work, where I'm doing outreach, where I'm, having to talk to a lot of people. Doing the breathwork stuff really helps to just kind of like clear tension in my body. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy the feeling that I get afterwards of just like wow, like my body was holding on to so much and I'm finally like releasing it and
Yeah.
just feeling lighter, just feeling like I don't know, it's been incredible to me just like discovering breathwork the last couple months. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, now I know what people are talking about. Now I know why people are saying that they use breathwork.
Yeah. It's amazing how
Yeah.
you're your breath, just it's just like just even taking a full breath.
Yes.
We don't realize we don't even take full breaths,
Mhm.
really. But just even taking a full breath makes a difference. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy.
Yes. And I'm like,
It's
have I been living this whole time just like holding my breath? Yes,
yeah,
yes, I have. Yes, I have. When you're in survival mode, you are
yeah.
not taking full breaths. You are
I know.
not,
I
you're
know.
just
It's
like constantly like everything is just like you're just holding these breaths for so long and you don't realize the effect that it has on your body
no, you don't.
and how much, and even just thinking how much more clear you can think when you take full breaths.
I know.
And sometimes I've heard this thing about like, oh, with your breathing, like you can put yourself in different, like, not dimensions, but just like different states of consciousness, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, how's that possible? Like, I never understood that. And there's certain breath works, there's certain like holotropic and breakthrough where there's different patterns that you're like different breath patterns that you're holding.
Hmm.
And there's been times that, because your eyes are closed, right? And I'm seeing like visions that like I've
Yep.
never seen before, that I've never even seen in like psychedelic trips. Like I'm like, wow, this is what they mean about you have it in yourself to put yourself in another state of consciousness just by
Hmm.
your breathing. I mean, it's incredible. It's crazy.
Yep. So what have you got? What do you have coming up? Or didn't you go to an event recently?
Yes. Yes. So, I it was an overdose awareness day,
Okay.
and so there was a couple of other organizations there that have to
Hmm.
do with like harm reduction, stuff like that. And we were there, and so our district attorney talked about this program that I've helped create, and it's called Project Restore. And so what it is when people are getting like let's say they're getting charges for like possession of drugs, right?
Hmm.
And they go to jail, whatever, then they get released, then they have this project this or Project Restore. So there's certain qualifications, right? Like you can't have like violent um charges on your previous record, things like that, right? So there's certain like qualifications that you need to meet, but
Hmm.
basically it's um reaching out to me. Coming, twice a month we do this tour of the recovery center that I work at. And so they take a look at, what we do there. They are also required to attend 3 meetings. And so we have so much programming. I mean, and there's so much for them to choose from, whether it's a all recovery meeting, yoga. They can even go take free. We have one that's free guitar lessons that they can go to. I mean, any of those. They can pick, right? So
Hmm.
they meet those they go to these meetings and then they turn in, and obviously during this time for 90 days you can't get into any further trouble or anything like that. But
Hmm.
um these people are facing felonies. I mean, that is what is on their record. And so
Right.
what this program is doing is it's giving them the opportunity to get, because they can no longer just dismiss cases, right? That's not a thing. And so what happens is you get the opportunity to get it expunged from your record if you follow, the requirements for this program.
Yeah.
Which is an incredible opportunity. This is something that is very unique to this area. I was actually talking to them the other day. They don't even know, who in Texas is also doing this. Like they don't know because no one is really. So this is a very like we've been doing this program for like the last 2 years, but it kind of finally went public. And so I'm really proud of it. Like this has been, I think I would say that, besides like the support with, my peers, this to me has been just like the biggest contribution that I can make to people that are having issues with substance use, right? Because yeah, not everyone that comes into this program, you know, not everybody is there because obviously it's all drug related, right? but not everybody there is an addict, right? Like some people were with other people and they got caught, or wrong place, wrong time, whatever. But it's giving people the opportunity to, first of all, learn about a recovery center, know that there is help if they need it,
Mhm.
and also just kind of it's a big deal to be able to get things expunged off your record because
Oh my God.
usually it takes a lot of money, like $1,000, 1,000 to 1,500 just right off the bat.
Right.
Um, and it's also important too because there's a lot of people that have cases that they can't get expunged, right? Ever because they're really serious. And the thing is that it prevents you from so much. It prevents you from renting at certain places. It prevents you from certain jobs. I mean, sometimes really having things on your record, especially drug related, like it's not helpful for certain jobs. Like, so this is an opportunity for people to get it expunged, which is great, I think, because whatever we've been doing when it comes to punishing people because of their drug usage is not working.
Yeah.
Like that's, and I feel like that's a really radical belief these days because, automatically people are like, oh, you got in trouble for drugs. Well, you deserve the punishment. You deserve to go to jail and do your time.
Mhm.
But this is really like a very alternative way of looking at it as like, okay, we should not be punishing people for using drugs. We should be trying to help people and support people try to, figure out what they want to do with life, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's all, we're gonna be hopefully there'll be some statistics soon to see like, all I know is that there's definitely been over 500 people that this program alone has brought into this recovery center. And it's really good. Like it's a really good opportunity for people. And I'm really happy with this. I'm like, that's like I feel like my biggest like achievement when it's come to recovery is like being part of creating this program for people.
Well, that's cool.
Yes, I'm so
Yes.
happy with it.
Well,
Because here's the
yeah.
thing is right now, like a lot of people think that oh, we're just letting criminals get off easy because because they think that drug addicts are criminals, right? And so there's this big notion of like we're just letting people get off easy and they're just reoffending or whatever. And like that's not the case. Like it's first of all, like people are not getting off easy. Like getting a felony on your record is not getting off easy, like at all.
Yeah.
And so it's really trying to just change that mindset, and which is really hard. It's a
Well,
really
yeah.
hard thing.
If you knew what was involved, you know,
Yeah,
I listen. I don't think a lot of people realize when you're involved in a recovery community the amount of the emotional toll it takes on you, being in this industry, wherever you are.
yeah,
Um, it's a lot of work, and it's not just letting them off.
yeah. No, there's a lot of good work being done that
There
is
is,
not talked about at
yeah,
all. We have like over 14,000 people just here in Austin that are part of different drug court programs, mental health courts. I mean, but work is being done, but what's being highlighted? Not that. Not that. Like people, because everybody is always like, oh, we should be helping people. It's like, no, people are being helped. It's just doesn't fit the agenda of like, oh, a certain number of people are being helped. No, let's just focus on all the people that are getting off easy and reoffend, like that makes people more upset, right? Like let's get people mad. Let's get people to think that everybody's getting off easy when really like no, there's work being done. It's just all in the background, it feels like.
mm. So yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of work, and but and then they don't get off easy either. So I'm proud of you,
Thank
regardless.
you.
I'm proud of your work. I think it's
Thank
awesome.
you. Oh, can I talk about this experience that I had yesterday?
Of course you
Okay,
can.
okay. So,
Yeah.
of course, like with my variety stuff, they're big on like plant medicine and sweat lodges and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
So, yesterday I had my first combo experience. And for those that don't know, combo is a frog that there is like secretion that people get secretions off of. And so they do these like burns on your skin and they put it's like the secretions of the frog, right? And so what it does is that, first of all, this is not psychoactive. So this is not some kind of crazy psychedelic trip that you're going into. No, this is very much like a reset of your lymphatic system. So what it does is like it's applied to your skin, and you're supposed to have these certain guidelines, right? Like you're supposed to have fasted and kind of had like a very strict diet of like vegetables and fruits leading up to this. And so all of last week was me like being very particular and like of course I have big issues with control, so of course I was like, yes, I'm gonna control like this diet, I'm gonna
No, you're not.
follow.
You don't have issues with control.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing, right? Is like control issues. But yes, so I was like very happy to like, I was like, yes, I'm gonna follow like all the directions. So I followed all the directions, and so I show up, and um, I'm told, so during this, there's a lot of purging, a lot of, whether it's vomiting, whether it's diarrhea, all that stuff, like because you're expelling toxins, right? This is a medicine that is used in South America by the indigenous folks down there. And so I arrive, and there's certain things that we tried beforehand. So like there's this one that they did first, which is it's like this liquid that comes from a tree bark, and people in South America use it. They use it actually at night right before they hunt, because a lot of these people sometimes hunt at night. Um, but it also is helpful for just your eyesight in general. Um, I had tried this a couple years ago because I read that you could improve your prescription for your eyes. Like you could just make your eyes better. So a couple
Mhm.
years ago, I tried this a couple times, and it did. Like it improved my prescription on one of my eyes. Like I've never had any improvement in my prescriptions for my eyes. So I was like, okay, I'm down with this. Like this works. All right. And so, after that I hadn't done it anymore. And so with this combo experience, like the first thing is you put the Sananga in your eyes for a couple minutes, and kind of just to help the vision. And also there's this word that they use in that language in Quechua, which is like the Peruvian indigenous people, and it's so that it clears like your vision from like negativity, like so that you can see, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I did that first, and then after that was I got this, they do this like it's like this tobacco, but it's like in powder form, and they put it up your nose, like it goes in your nose. And it's also supposed to be like a opening, like kind of like opening for ceremony, you know. So I did that. That felt interesting because I had never had that done. And so it's like this on both sides of my nose, and I'm just like, whoa, it was just like this rush, right? But I was like, okay, so then it was time for me to, and so she had asked me like, there are any spots in your body that are painful to you, or, and I have a huge problem with like my right side, my shoulder blade, right? I always have a lot of tension stuck there. And
Mhm.
this is all, I've tried to work through this with like EMDR and stuff, and that
Mhm.
this was always a place that would just get it would just like get ignited. Like I don't know, it would just get really swollen and stuff. So she put it back there, and so she did the little gates, and so right away, like it's fast, like it's fast, like to it works really fast. So like you just kind of start feeling like your blood, like your heart beating faster, and I'm like sweating, and I have this bucket, right? And I'm just like, of course, I knew that this was going to be like my intention for this was to um help with, of course, addiction, right? Addiction just in
Mhm.
general. Like for me, like right now, smoking, right? Smoking cigarettes. I was like, okay, that's when it was kind of my intention, but the bigger intention was just like releasing like grief from people that have passed throughout the years, whether they've been family members or even peers that I've
Mhm.
had that have passed away. So my whole thing was like, okay, clearing that, or not clearing it, but just being able to heal, being able to
Mhm.
heal from trauma and being able to heal from grief, because for me, grief is so hard. Like it's so hard for me to get over these things.
Mhm.
And so those were my intentions. And then, this starts happening and it's already knew like it wasn't going to be a comfortable process, right? Because as addicts, like we just want the most comfortable things. It's
Right.
why, we just want to feel good all the time.
Sure.
So of course I was like, okay, this isn't gonna feel good, but okay, I'm ready for it. And so right away I was like, you know what? I think I need to go to the bathroom. And so she's like, okay, okay. Because I was like, okay, I wasn't sure what was gonna happen, right? Then finally, it finally comes. Like I feel like I was expecting it to happen fast. Like I was just gonna puke right away. But this had been, some time and I still hadn't. So I got into the bathroom and then I finally start puking, right? So then like, I'm like, oh, I feel like crap. And then I was like, okay, I think that then I felt like, oh, my hands were cramping up so bad. Like I couldn't even really move them. And this is kind of a problem that I have when I do breath work anyways. Like
Mm.
just because you're messing with like the CO2 levels in your body, right? So it can cause your hands to get numb or just stuck, right? So this is happening and so I'm like puking and then I felt like okay, wow, like then my hands actually like then they were fine. And then I was like, okay. And so I went back out there and she messed with the medicine some more, but I wasn't feeling, the same feeling that I was having. Now I felt fatigued. Now I'm like, man, now I'm tired. So she's like, okay, well then, then you're done, right? And so she looked at the puke, right? Because they have to see. And so she's like, okay. She's like, she was like, yeah, you've passed some phlegm and certain things. She said that it looked kind of like like I hadn't reached deeper into it yet. Like there should have been kind of like more. But she said obviously like listen to my body. If I'm done, I'm done, right? So she took it off and then they had me like lay down because of course I was really tired. And then that was, and then like an hour later, then I, was fine and I was ready to, go home. And yeah, so like I came back home and I was just feeling like okay. She told me, you take it easy, just take it easy for like the first 48 hours. So I really didn't know like, okay, what am I really going to be feeling out of this, right? And so I came home and I just chilled out, just kind of slept on and on. And then today I just felt great. I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Like I haven't smoked today. Like I haven't felt the need to go smoke. And this is somebody like I'm somebody that like every couple days I'm having to buy a pack of cigarettes because
Yeah.
things just stress me out and I'm just constantly like, okay, I need to go outside and go smoke, right?
Yeah.
So I feel really good. So I don't
That's all.
know. We'll see where this takes me, but right now I'm like, man, like cool. Like I did it and we'll see what like the effects that I'm gonna have from it.
And this is the well.
No, 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 no. This is just like plant medicine, like the path with yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
know if this was the indigenous.
Well, no, I mean, with the indigenous stuff, I mean, they're a little bit more extreme. Like they actually go to sweat lodges and, you know, peyote is a big thing because that's the thing when the Native American church
Right, right,
is
right, right.
peyote. So
Yeah,
no, I haven't done all that yet, but
yeah,
I've kind of slowly been putting my feet in with just plant medicine in general. And it's not anything like this form is a little bit different for me because of course I've always like taken tinctures and herbal teas and like I know all that stuff, but this is more of like more deeper indigenous traditions that they do.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. So we'll
That's
see. We'll
really
see
cool.
where it takes me. But yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting. I'm like, man, like again, like I said, like I really wish certain things were accessible to people because again, you do have to find practitioners that are good and you do have to find practitioners that like do know what they're talking about, right? That do have
Yeah,
your best interest in mind. Like for me, a big thing was I have low blood pressure sometimes. And so that was something that she was making sure that I was going to be okay and
yeah,
making sure that my body was going to be able to handle it and stuff. So
I love the Native American culture just because they are very spiritual. I love going to New Mexico because New Mexico is very spiritual. And um, even just going to New Mexico, it's you go there and it's just you can just feel like the Native American spirituality there, and
yeah.
it's it's awesome. I love going there. It's not like anything I've ever experienced. It's I love it. I mean, it's I don't even know how to explain it really. It's close to close to earth, close to nature, close to like stone, mesa, all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. I can't even explain it. I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah.
it, I love it.
Well, and just the big, a big thing with them is community,
Yeah, and community.
which is like so
Yep,
difficult nowadays.
I
Like
know.
everybody just, there's a big thing about, individualism, right?
Yeah,
And that is very much how this country operates. So, which is why, people have to seek communities, right? People have to
right,
seek, with people that they can find community with.
right. And I think that's kind of why I think, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. I think a lot of people are getting misled um, because of social media and television. I think what they don't realize is when, you know, they are seeing stuff on social media and on television. And I think once they realize if they go out and talk to people, actual people,
Mhm.
instead of looking on social media and not, they're not talking to people, but if they actually talk to people, they'll realize people really aren't that bad. They really aren't, but
Yeah.
I think because of COVID and the isolation that we were in, I don't think that really did people a lot of good, especially younger people. Because I think it closed people off from uh, community, some people off from community, some people off from, you know, making connections with
Yeah.
actual people, you know, and making people afraid of other people, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't even cough without everybody looking at you nowadays.
I know,
Oh my God. Like it'll be one cough and it's like,
I know, or
ah,
sneeze,
yes, yes. Ah.
and it's like, come on, like, you
It's like,
know,
I promise I'm not sick like
yeah,
that.
yeah. I'm like, it's ridiculous. But I mean, people really aren't that bad. They're not that bad. If you talk to them, they're fine. But I think a lot of it's crazy. I mean, in my opinion, every time I go out and I talk to people, I'm like, hey, I mean, they're fine. So that's just my opinion, which means nothing, by the way.
What?
By the way. Okay, so we're at the end, and I'm going to ask you 10 questions
Okay.
that I ask all of my guests.
All right. Ready?
You ready? You
Yeah,
ready?
I'm ready.
All right. The first question: what skill would you like to ultimately master, and why?
Woodworking so that I could build my cat's a catio.
A catio?
A catio.
Then maybe you could build me one too. I have two cats, so woodworking, huh?
Yeah.
That would be cool. Okay, second question. What has been the highlight of your life thus far and why?
Is it crazy to say that the highlight has been the last year?
No.
Okay, I would say that I probably reached, a place in life where I feel secure and I'm in recovery.
Well, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
That would be, I mean, if I reached a place of security, that's fair. That's
And I mean by security, by like myself, like
yeah,
I'm secure with myself.
right. That's an awesome place to be, frankly, when you're secure with yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, third question. What risk have you not taken that you would still like to take, and why haven't you?
Risk. Um, I would say more of like thrill seeking things. Like I'm scared of heights. So
Mhm.
like that really prevents me from a lot of things. That, like even just going on like a like a merry-go-round. Not merry-go-round. Sorry. What are they called? Like the wheel at the carnivals.
Yeah, like a Ferris
Yes.
wheel.
Yes, there you go first.
Ferris.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, are you saying you would go on a Ferris wheel, or are you
I
saying
would if
like
I
to
got a
skydive?
Yeah, because like I went to a carnival a couple months ago with my kids and they wanted to go. And so they went with my husband, but I'm over there just like, bye. Like, you don't want to go, mommy? No, mommy's scared.
Way to show them. Good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Good job, mom. Okay. 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 Do you have any nicknames or pet names?
Not really. My family used to call me Flaca.
Flaca?
Yeah, which is like skinny girl. Like that was like my nickname growing up. Flaca.
Okay, Flaca. Uh, next question. What person, living, dead, or a character do you most relate to and why?
Um, really, probably my grandmother. The
Oh,
way, yes, she is like the one that I was able to learn like my love of like gardening, of just like,
gardening.
taking care of like living, like plants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
definitely.
very sweet. What did she like to garden?
Oh my gosh, she loved having roses and flowers and all kinds of things like that. I just remember like growing up just helping her like watering and just around the garden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Okay, who do you admire and why?
I admire my kids. Definitely.
And how old are they now?
So I have a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 15-year-old. And
Wow.
so I admire them just because of where they're at, like that they're just comfortable in being themselves. And it's not like me, who is very much like quiet, shy, people pleasing, trying to, be like trying to not be seen, I think was my thing. And then,
Yeah,
I see them and they're silly and I'm just like, man, like what? Like those are things to admire. Like,
yeah,
when you can just be yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, what has been your biggest, and this is a trick question, by the way, what has been your biggest mistake and or regret, and why? And I say it's a trick question because usually our mistakes are like learning experiences. You know what I mean?
I would say not saying things to people like, people that I passed away.
Mhm.
Like regrets on like, oh, I should have done more, or I should have said more, or I should have told them how I felt, or things like that. I think it's more of like not necessarily like something that I did, but it's something I didn't do.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you wish you would have said more.
Yes, definitely. Or just not taking time for granted.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What is your favorite curse word?
It's probably fuck. Probably, yes.
Job. That one's my favorite too. So right there. Okay. So what is your, and this is my personal question. And I love asking people this question because I like knowing this because it just, for number one, I like knowing this because it shows that even though we all um, are in some sort of recovery, that we all come from different backgrounds, and but we all, it doesn't matter. Like, we all just come from different backgrounds. Anyway, the question is, what's your ethnicity or your heritage?
Um, so I usually say Mexican American, but I've of course done my ancestry and I have a very high percentage of indigenous. And so
Oh,
yeah, it's like over 60%. And so that makes me really happy because it actually makes me want to explore more of my roots.
yeah, that's cool. Do you know what tribe?
No, no, that's another
Tell
thing is
you,
like I would love to know.
yeah, that would be cool. But it wouldn't tell you the tribe.
No, no,
Oh,
it didn't.
that sucks. Okay, so what would you hope your higher power, God, the universe, creator, would say to you when you pass or transition or die?
Would say to me,
Yeah.
oh, that I shouldn't have spent so much time worrying about things. My gosh, yeah. Like you should have worried a lot less.
You're still worrying here.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, well, that's it. So, anyway,
Oh,
thank you,
thank you so much.
Tiffany, for taking the time.
Of
Thank
course, of course.
you so much for taking the time. I've really enjoyed it. And I so appreciate everything you have done for me and helping me through my journey since I've been in Austin.
Yeah. No, no, thank you. You are why I do this. Like, like my peers and just like, because I do get a lot of I learned so much and it really helps me. It really helps my recovery for sure.
Well, you've helped me, I mean, in a major way since I've been moved back home. So I'm very grateful to you.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
you have made a difference in my life. So I just want you to know that.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you very much.
Yes, and thank you for inviting me on here.
You bet. Anytime. So thank you, everybody. And we will see you next time on Sane-ish. So thanks again. And we'll see you next time.